Welcome to MK True Crime. I'm Jonna Spilbor, your host today. I'm a criminal defense attorney, shoe aficionado, and founding member of Jonna Spilbor Law. My first language is English, but my second is profanity. Here's what's on the docket today. The civil trial of teacher Abby Zwerner enters its second week. Abby was shot by, get this, her first grade student, and now she's suing for $40 million. We'll bring you up to speed on that trial. A model with a fascination for guns shot her boyfriend during a photo shoot. Was it an accident or something else? We'll discuss. And the case of a young mom killed by a margarita, who's to blame? I'll tell you this, it's not Jose Cuervo. We'll get into it. I'm joined today by fellow MK True Crime contributors Arthur Aidala, New York trial attorney, and the person Gotham City beckons with not a bat signal, but a fedora-shaped searchlight. And Ashley Merchant, a criminal defense attorney out of Georgia who is as wicked smart as she is gorgeous. We start with the trial of Abby Zwerner. Okay, you guys. Abby Zwerner, this case, I remember first hearing about this case. Let me give you a little backstory because this is really shocking. Abby Zwerner was a teaching assistant. The school is in Virginia. Sorry, she was a teacher in Virginia. She gets shot one day by a student. Now you might think, what was this, high school? Even junior high? No, siree. She got shot by a 6-year-old in her classroom who happened to bring a gun to school and apparently knew how to use it, you guys. So now we're not talking about a criminal trial against a 6-year-old. Right now we're talking about a civil suit that she filed against the assistant principal of the school, who she reported this child's, let's say, behavior on a number of occasions, in particular this day, and was ignored by that assistant principal. And then eventually she got shot, nearly killed. The bullet pierced her chest. It went through her lung. Her lung is now somehow permanently scarred to her chest wall. She has a bullet fragment permanently lodged in her body. She will never be able to get an MRI for the rest of her life, which could be very problematic as she ages, because Lord knows as we get older, sometimes we need MRI imaging. And she is suing this assistant principal for $40 million. Do we blame her? Ashley?
Yeah, Jonna. So I definitely don't blame this lady. I would want to sue too. I mean, she's had a lot of health scares from this. She's suffered a lot, and it really sounds like it's from the negligence of her assistant principal. You know, she did everything she should do. She alerted them about this gun violence, about that this kid had something in its bag, in the child's bag. And I mean, there's a lot of steps that could have been taken that weren't taken. You know, the first thing that came to mind, they didn't want to do a body search. Okay, well, you don't need to do a body search. How about wand the child's backpack? I mean, they definitely have wands. There are things that they could do. Talk to the child. You don't have to do a body search. Talk to the child. See what the child says. See if they're acting suspicious. I mean, there's steps that you can take. I think it's absolutely horrifying that we have to do this with a 6-year-old. And I did learn that the mom is charged, and that, you know, thank God, because where did this kid get the gun? That's my overwhelming question.
Yeah, let's talk about that, Arthur, because the mother of this 6-year-old heathen is doing time, hard time for her neglect. I mean, so is this a case of nature versus nurture? What do you think?
Well, Jenna, I have to compliment you because you've gone through about 3 or 4 minutes and you haven't used your second language yet. So I'm very happy
Comment.
you've kept this segment as clean as you have. I'm sure a lot of self-control was necessary to do that.
Thank you for noticing.
Yeah, I definitely know. So mom's doing 2 years in jail on a state charge, and then she's got to do another 21 months in jail on a federal charge regarding the state charge has to do with criminal negligence of a child, and the federal charge has to do with the gun. So mom is seeing some form of justice here, although it's insane that a 6-year-old has a gun. The 6-year-old was definitely a problematic student. He had been accused of trying to strangle a teacher and really being very physical with the teacher. there is an aspect, if I'm the defense attorney, the civil defense attorney, of saying, well, why didn't this teacher help herself? Why was there no self-help? In other words, actually just articulated all of these steps the assistant principal should have done. But I
Mhm.
have no problem telling you that in self-defense, if I really thought this kid had a gun, I wouldn't be waiting for the assistant principal to do something. I would be doing something. I would be doing what Ashley said, going over and speaking to the child or calling security on my own and saying, listen, this kid is saying he's got a gun. Somebody's got to check this out. If your request fell on deaf ears to the defendant here in this civil case, the assistant principal, then I would seek out some other remedies if I genuinely believed a kid had a gun.
I think sometimes, our teachers or educators feel constrained by so many rules of things they can and cannot do because they're afraid of getting sued by parents. And I can tell, I know both of you are parents. I am not. I probably would have begun with the self-help and grabbed this kid by the scruff of the neck, grabbed his backpack, went through, do whatever I got to do. But this teacher followed protocol and was essentially ignored. And I want to play SOT 1, if you don't mind, because this is one of the ways the assistant principal dismissed or poo-pooed this teacher's complaint about this child. Let's play SOT 1.
What do you tell Dr. Parker at this time?
So again, I tell her that I went and checked the bag. I told her just what I said to you all, what was in the bag. And then I also tell her that Abby texted me that they were out at recess, that he took something from the bag and he put it in his pocket.
Did you tell her you thought it could be a gun?
I mean, I told her that I reported that it was a gun. I mean, the whole time I assumed she thought it was a gun because that's what the girls reported. And I went and reported to her.
And what did she say in response to you when you said he put it in his pocket?
She did say that, well, he has little pockets. And I said he put it in his jacket pocket. And I was kind of mad, and I walked away.
This is
Kind
just
of
crazy.
mad and walked away. So, and we have to remember that this right now, we're talking about a civil case, right? This victim is suing for damages because of what the assistant principal did not do. But I got to ask you guys, because both of you, again, you're both parents. How does a 6-year-old come to learn? First of all, how do you get your hands on a gun? That's bad parenting, number one. How do you come to learn that taking a gun to school and trying to shoot your teacher, or he could have shot other children? How do you learn that behavior at 6? At 6, all I gave a shit about was like jelly beans and Bugs Bunny. That was
Halloween
it.
costumes. Right.
What is going on? And both of you are parents. Who wants to take it?
John, it's terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying as a parent to think of this. And I know Arthur probably has dealt with this, unfortunately, as well. We are thinking about different things these days as parents than our parents were. I am thinking about, are my kids going to be subject to school violence? Are there, every day they go to school, they're concerned about it. I mean, I've had to have these real conversations with my kids, and I can just imagine that this teacher was probably thinking about the safety of other children. But that's one of the reasons we have school resource officers. And I will tell you, this is a very difficult legal and moral debate for people because you've got a 6-year-old. And I think most people would think a 6-year-old, their brain's not developed. I mean, clearly,
Right.
shoot, I have teenagers. I have an 18-year-old and her brain is not developed. Can we, I mean, definitely not. Sorry. But, can we hold a 6-year-old accountable for this? Not really. I mean, the 6-year-old, it's awful.
No, the mom is being held accountable. I mean, look, she's doing
Exactly.
2 years in state prison, 21 years, 21 months in federal prison. John, I will tell the world, I don't have a gun in my house. And the primary reason is I have a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old in the house. And I don't know if the statistics today, it was like a toss up between car accidents and accidental gun discharges was the number one killer of young people. So obviously this was a dysfunctional home. Can't argue about that. I mean, that is clear. I mean, I guess when you look at this case, and as you know, the level of proof necessary is much lower than a criminal case, right? The three of us are always talking about beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt. That's not the level of proof here. So the jurors just have to find that, hey, Ms. Parker should have stepped up here and said, okay, it's going to take us 5 minutes to make sure a student does not have a gun, or as you said, Ms. Spilbor, besides the teacher could have shot a student. And I mean, luckily, it was a small gun that didn't just. I mean, we didn't blow her away, but it could have been. So I mean, I think the prosecution here, the plaintiff here, has a pretty strong argument to this jury, saying this woman basically did nothing to try to protect our client, and it's by 2 centimeters. That's what the doctor who testified, by 2 centimeters, she's alive and not dead.
Yeah, I want to play SOT too because it sort of describes the nature of her injuries. And then I want to shift gears and talk to you a little bit about potential criminal liability on the assistant principal. Let's go ahead and play SOT 2.
So can you tell the jury the significance of the blown up image where it shows the bullet 2 centimeters from the aorta?
So there are several things about the way this bullet went in that are life-threatening. Certainly the injury to the lung, where I described that it has collapsed. Any human being can bleed to death from that level of injury to the lung. But again, where this bullet ended up, it went past the heart and just barely missed it. And then also ended up within 2 centimeters of the biggest artery in the entire body, which, patients would bleed to death in seconds from an injury to that vessel.
Wow. That is
Close.
some scary stuff, right? And the victim herself said that she thought she was, quote, on her way to heaven. And that's got to be a horrible, horrible, emotionally distressing feeling to think that you are about to die, let alone at the hands of a
Johnny, you
6-year-old.
think you'd be on your way to heaven or elsewhere? I'm just curious. I mean, we know each other for a while. I mean, I think it would be a close call. It'd be like a little crossroads situation.
God doesn't discriminate against potty mouths. He's all good. I know where I'm going to go. I'm just not going to go
the
there
only one? Is that
for
the only
very long
violation we're going with?
Well, no, but okay. But this is not about me. So listen,
Well, John, it's always about you.
I want to talk about, even though this is a civil case, and I think the testimony is wrapped up, what they probably have left are closing arguments. And I don't know if there's $40 million to get. That is what she is suing for. But can we shift gears real quick and talk about, should the assistant principal face criminal charges? She is facing criminal charges for putting all of those other students at risk. Does that smack of the Ethan Crumbley case? Like, or is it a bridge too far? Or do you think that there is criminal responsibility there? Arthur, since you got a smart mouth,
I would say it's a bridge too far. I mean, just because, and you said this earlier, John, like you both said it, like, as a 6-year-old really going to be packing? Right? Is a 6-year-old really going to be walking around school with a gun and knowing how to use the gun? And it's a loaded gun. Not that he just has a gun. It's a gun with a bullet in the chamber ready to be discharged. I don't know what the population of the school was. I don't know how burdened this assistant principal was. But do you charge her with some form of criminally negligent homicide, which has a very low sentence? I guess it's in the realm of possibilities. If you're a prosecutor who's very zealous, you throw them in the grand jury and you let the citizens of that community make that decision in Virginia.
Well, Ashley, every single student in that classroom could have died. And who's responsible for that? We did it with Ethan Crumbley. We took parents who were nowhere near the scene and convicted them of involuntary manslaughter. What's to stop us from convicting this assistant principal for doing nothing?
Yeah, but they bought him the gun and everything, didn't they, Crumbley's? And they knew about it, and he was at target practice and all of those things. This is a 6-year-old who snuck into some closet or didn't and took it from his mom or dad, and that person's already going to do about 4 years in prison.
Ashley, and I think him up for me.
Well, and we see the parent is being held responsible, but the assistant principal, that's a bridge too far for me as well. And I'm just, well, I've got to say, I am very much against criminalizing what I would consider non-intentional conduct. A parent is different because you have a duty. It's an intentional duty. You accepted that duty. But an assistant principal, they have a duty, but there's a big difference between a civil duty and a criminal liability. And I just think that's a bridge too far. But I also don't appreciate over-criminalizing cases. I think we over-criminalize cases as a society. I think that this assistant principal should be held responsible, but it should be in civil court. And, there's definitely damages there, and we want to send a lesson, But is the civil case going to be able to send that lesson? I hope so, because what do we want here? We want new policies. We want this lady to be compensated for her own loss, obviously, and that's the purpose of a civil lawsuit. But we also want some policy changes. And I would imagine that we're seeing those policy changes. And if we're not, perhaps suing the actual county, perhaps suing the school district would do more to actually promote those changes than trying to lock up this assistant principal who probably made a mistake. Was she negligent? Yes. Should she have done more? Yes. But did she have any criminal intent? That's a bridge too far for me.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because this assistant principal is the only defendant in this civil suit. I think the school district should also have been sued for this. And if
I
I
am
were
surprised that I assumed the school district, I mean, because this
You
woman,
think
who knows
the-
what finances she really has.
right,
Whereas the school district has insurance policies. And
Mhm.
I don't know if she's indemnified as a teacher in any
That's what I was
way
wondering.
down in Virginia, but usually you would see in the caption the school, the school
Right.
itself, the school district, the superintendent, and the whole kitchen sink to see if she does prevail, if there's money, there's finances anywhere to compensate this family.
Did you know gold is up around 40% this year? That's not speculation, it's reality. And if a portion of your savings is not diversified into gold, you're missing the boat. Here are the facts. The US dollar, still too weak. The government debt, still growing. This is why central banks are flocking to gold. They're the ones driving prices up to record highs. But it's not too late to buy gold from Birch Gold Group and get in the door right now. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. You don't pay a dime out of pocket. Just text MK to 989898 and claim your free info kit. There's no obligation, just useful information. The best indicator of the future is the past, and gold has historically been a safe haven. So text MK to 989898 right now to claim your free info kit on gold. MK to the number 989898. Protect your future today with Birch Gold.
We're going to move on to another gun case, which is equally as egregious and ridiculous and probably shouldn't have happened. But we're going to go over to a Las Vegas case. Now, interestingly, in Nevada, they have very, very lax gun laws. Like you can, apparently you can open carry. You don't need a pistol permit. You don't need anything. You just need to be, I think, over 21. And that's it if you're going to open carry, which is kind of scary. And you can't carry if you're drunk, which in the land of, especially in Vegas, in the land of casinos, like everybody's drunk all the time. So so that boggles my mind. But here in Las Vegas, there was a case where a woman, what is her name? Her name is Alessandra, but they call her Allie Blea. She's a 20-year-old model. We're going to put model in air quotes because, okay, air quotes. Thank you. And she, I'm sorry.
Be kind.
She was posing with a pistol, and her boyfriend, whose name was because he's no longer with us, Mark Gogan. I'm probably screwing that
No,
up.
I think you're right.
Who was only 23. Alessandra herself is 20. He was 23. She's posing with a gun. You guys, not like, maybe if you're trying to pose with an unloaded gun and look a little badass, we have a picture of her posing with a gun in her mouth. Thank you. You see that? Gun in her mouth. And if you notice, her finger is on the trigger. As a gun owner, I am a gun owner. I have a concealed carry permit. That's so offensive to me. And in the course of this photo shoot, she ends up, quote, accidentally shooting her boyfriend dead. Now, she is awaiting trial. She's got no bail. She's claiming it was an accident. And again, is this a set of Rusk situation? Is it really an accident when you're that reckless, you guys, and somebody loses their lives? Ashley, what do you think?
This is a hard case to defend. I think you have to make a choice with this case when you're defending it. You're either going to own up to the conduct and say, I was drunk, because it's my understanding she had been drinking, she had been partying a little. I was drunk and I'm going to go for mitigation. That's how we're going to go this. Or this was an accident. I think she's going to have a hard time proving this was an accident, though, because it's reasonably foreseeable that if you're drunk with a gun, it's going to go off and you're going to be held criminally responsible for that. I think a jury's not going to like her from some of the text. She was texting disgusting things about her boyfriend loving her more than she loved him,
He was disgusted by it. Disgusted by love.
It's kind of not a good scene. You don't really want that in front of a jury. So I think as a defense lawyer, you're going to try and keep this out of a jury as much as possible. And if they could develop, maybe she's got some substance abuse problems that's leading her to this, maybe there's something in her life, that has caused this. That could be mitigation. And that's going to be the best bet, because I don't think a jury is going to like this case at all.
But Arthur, speaking of juries, Arthur, I mean, it's Vegas, right? If you can walk around with a gun, like, do you think a Vegas jury is going to be like, happens all the time, no big deal?
To your point, making your point, I'm in New York City, where we have amongst the strictest gun laws in the country, in the world. And I go to Vegas, and I get into a cab, and it's like, he's got the navigation, the radio, and there's a Glock. A Glock gun, like right there underneath the radio in a holder. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then I called him out. I go, so situation here, you guys just got the guns just sitting right there? Like, oh yeah, we're allowed to. It's not a problem. And look, it's a cultural thing. The same way I would ask that same cab driver, could you make me a little rigatoni with pesto on it and add some sun-dried tomatoes? And he would know what I'm talking about. Like, to me, it's foreign to be running around with a gun. But the fact that on this set, that gun was loaded and ready to be fired, that's the biggest issue. Look, I represent some guys in the rap industry, whatever they call that music nowadays. I'm a Sinatra guy myself. But they have guns all over the place, but they're not loaded. They don't even have the clip in.
How do you know?
The chamber's empty. Because I know. These are my guys.
Okay.
And they've never killed, and they've never shot anyone. It's never gone off. And I mean, there was also an issue on this case where one of the witnesses says they saw the defendant hit the deceased with a vodka bottle in his ribs when he wasn't looking, around the same time. And I think they said it was like inhumane the way she attacked him. She's got all these crazy social media posts saying, I would love to shoot somebody and get away with it. So this is a rough road for the defense attorney here to hoe, except saying all these things could be true, but there's no evidence that she did anything intentionally. And at worst, it should be a negligent act, not an intentional act.
This is just one of those cases to me that stinks. Like, circumstantially, when you look at her social media posts, the fact that she said something ridiculous, like, I'm disgusted by the way he loves me, that the prosecution thinks she was obsessed with guns, tells me, I mean, I don't, like I said, I am a gun owner. I'm an avid Second Amendment. But when you allow people like that to legally open carry, you're asking for trouble.
That's a good point. And I think if you're thinking about the jury pool out there, yes, guns are legal and people regularly carry them. They're gun people. But every time I've picked a jury amongst gun people, the one thing I've learned is that gun people also are gun safety people. So I'm sure, Johnny, you probably preach gun safety. So those jurors are going to be super critical. Yes, they're going to be welcome to the fact that they have a gun. That's going to be normal. But they're also going to be super, super critical of gun safety. And they're going to think this was reckless. They're going to hold her probably to a higher standard. I actually wouldn't want gun owners on the jury, because they're vicious to other gun owners that don't actually exercise reasonable safety, because this gives all gun owners a bad name. And I think that they're nervous that things like this are going to try to outlaw guns. And so those jurors tend to be much more, hold people accountable if they aren't protective of guns and aren't, good with guns.
Yeah, like I said, this is kind of offensive to me. And even though I have guns and I can concealed carry, I rarely do conceal carry, just because
you don't drink and shoot, right? You don't drink and shoot.
Definitely don't drink and shoot. You're not allowed to do. There's so many exceptions to where you can actually carry in the state of New York that it almost swallows the rule. And if you are applying for a pistol permit in New York, you're going to have to go in front of a judge, and the judge is going to quiz you on all the places you can't carry, which is very
right. Which is, by the way, right here in my office. Like, I'm right by Times Square, and I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to carry within Times Square. Right?
No, and even you need a special permit to carry in New York City. So if I'm driving into the city, I can't have any of my guns with me, because that's a felony. I'm going to have to call Arthur, and God knows he's going to charge me double.
No, just a bunch of margaritas. I'm just going to charge you a bunch of margaritas. Safe margaritas.
Margaritas. Not lace.
Thank you for that segue, you guys, because we are going to shift from shootings into cocktails. Actually, one of them very deadly, because coming up next, a judge resigns after urinating in public, and a mom was killed by her margarita. Stay tuned. And remember, before we take this break, you can email us. We love to read your comments and story suggestions. Just email us at mktruecrime@devilmaycaremedia.com, mktruecrime@devilmaycaremedia.com, and we will be right back.
Streaming November 16th on Paramount Plus, it is the return of Landman, TV's biggest phenomenon from Taylor Sheridan, co-creator of Yellowstone. Academy Award winner Billy Bob Thornton is back as Tommy Norris and managing higher stakes than ever before. It features an all-star cast, including Academy Award nominees Demi Moore, Andy Garcia, and Sam Elliott. In the wake of his former boss's passing, tensions come to a head as Tommy and Demi Moore's character, Cammy Miller, struggle to maintain control of MTEX Oil. And with his father, played by Sam Elliott, coming back into his life, Tommy must juggle both of his roles as an oil man and a family man as pressure builds and his worlds collide. Do not miss the hit series everyone is talking about. Landman's new season starts streaming November 16th, only on Paramount Plus.
We are back, and this story is unbelievable and also very disheartening. A mom from Oklahoma, Holly Hill, ordered a margarita at her local Mexican restaurant, and it ended up being the worst mistake of her life. And by that, I mean, you guys, it ended her life. So here is the backstory. And I find this, we're going to debate this, but I find this really incredulous. So Holly Hill goes into a Mexican restaurant, right? She orders a margarita. She takes one sip. Immediately her entire digestive system, it feels like it's on fire. She runs to the restroom. She's throwing up. She's trying to rinse her mouth out with water. It turns out that what she drank was, I guess, in addition to the usual ingredients of a margarita, there was a commercial grade, extremely caustic, extremely toxic cleaner in her drink. Well, fast forward, she goes to the hospital. Turns out her esophagus is basically disintegrated. She has, I don't know, something like 30 surgeries. She had surgeries up the wazoo to try to fix things so that she could eat and drink like a normal person. Fast forward 2 years, the woman dies from complications from those injuries. The restaurant is still up and running. And I find this very hard to believe, you guys, that this was an accident. This is beyond reckless, beyond negligence.
I know, but Jenna, what evidence do you have that someone wanted to kill her? I mean, usually they go, okay, first person you go to is the spouse. Then you go to someone who they owe money with or a business partner. From what the research I've done here, there's none of that. She's just a sweet woman who, maybe someone. Look, this has us all thinking. We spoke off air. This has us all thinking of like how easily this could happen. There are so many restaurants here in Midtown Manhattan. There's craziness of the amount of people. They're doing things quickly. And look, let's face it, most of the people who are working in the back of these restaurants, they don't have PhD degrees.
Arthur,
they're not
you gotta know
the best of the best.
toilet bowl cleaner and sour mix. You gotta know that.
But an accident can happen.
Oh,
I mean, we talk about people who have dead frogs in their food, dead mice in their food, who have allergens that shouldn't be there in their food. So, you just can't jump to say that this is a crime. It's a tragedy. There is no doubt about that it's a tragedy. And, no one's gotten to the bottom of the line is what was the chemical? It was a strong industrial chemical. Right. And, as Ashley said earlier, maybe a policy of like, banning those from anywhere near a kitchen, until the place is closed, it is in order.
We all know that sometimes reckless behavior rises to the level of criminal behavior. We all know that. How could this be? Let's reverse engineer. How could it not be utterly reckless to have that kind of chemical near the well where you're serving drinks? Ashley.
Well, I think part of the problem is we don't know how it got in there. You know, I mean, that's what troubles me, because theoretically someone is washing the dishes. Okay. So you shouldn't have something this corrosive. If it's this corrosive, it's not washing a dish, because a lot of those are plastic, you know, and they're, you know, you don't have corrosive things. So I think someone must have mixed up chemicals. My guess, I mean, you know, whoever's watched years of Dexter and reads weird serial killer
Love
novels and
Dexter.
stuff, muriatic acid. They probably had it for clogged bathroom drains. I mean, that's one of those things. If you have toilets that clog regularly, what's the only failsafe? Muriatic acid. It will eat through bone. That's, I'm thinking, must have had a slip of that, you know, and I know that sounds creepy, but it's got to be something like that. So was it mislabeled? I mean, how did it end up in the dishes, and why? This is the one thing that, if you are going down that conspiracy theory route, John,
Why did it only end up in hers?
why did it only end up in her drink? That's
Yes,
the
I-
only
I
thing.
that was
thinking
my
of
next
that. Why does it
question.
only end up in hers? But
Right.
I don't know what small amount is necessary to cause that damage. Could it just be a bad splash? So
Right.
Ashley is cleaning out the drain and she pours it in and it splashes up and it goes into this particular glass and then it is then served,
Yeah.
you know, and it takes the poor woman down. But I mean, John, the injury that the woman suffered and the way her life had been destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean, that last Margarita should be paying her. I mean, there's an undisclosed amount that they're saying wasn't enough to even cover the $80,000 in medical bills.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, here in New York, she would have gotten at least one more zero added onto that, and after her death,
Mhm.
maybe two more zeros added onto that.
Yeah, you know, they
I-
must have had insufficient insurance coverage, because, you know, it sounded like they had hit policy limits, and if 80,000 isn't covered in medical bills, then they had a
Right.
really low policy. They need to have a much higher policy. So I would imagine that there's going to be some looking at some code ordinances and some local ordinances to see if they need to have a higher insurance to cover things like this happening.
Guys, how can this restaurant still be open? So, first of all, you should have adequate coverage, because, you know, certain restaurants, you could accidentally die in a restaurant. It might not be your fault. They should have adequate coverage. Second of all, you killed somebody somehow. Like, I'm convinced that it wasn't an accident. You killed somebody somehow, and only one person. Like in a Mexican restaurant, she was not the only person drinking a damn margarita. I mean, let's be real here. And then you get to stay open, and then you get to have this little, I don't know, social media post where we're so deeply sorry, but let me tell you, we continue to welcome our patrons with care, responsibility, and attention to their well-being, so long as we're not pouring Drano in their margarita. They're still, who would
ridiculous.
go there? Would you? I wouldn't go there.
Johnny, you would go
Eat
there once
margarita.
you want your margarita. You're one of the people. You're always margaritaed out.
Listen,
I'm surprised this place is still in business, and I can't help but wonder if part of the settlement was an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement or non-disparagement agreement, where to get the money they had to sign something, which is ridiculous because the public should know about this. How are they passing inspections after this?
Exactly. So I mean, to me, it's just disgusting, and the municipality should be ashamed of themselves for letting them continue to operate.
Well, you know
with
why?
that-
Hold on one second, John. Let's be lawyers for a second.
All right.
How does the municipality prove that, in fact, they caused the damage? How do they prove it? We could assume it. We could guess it. but
Test the
what
drink.
Who
Test
are
the
you going to
drink.
put? Who
Yeah.
are you going to put on the stand?
The establishment essentially assumed liability when it paid out on the civil case, even though there was most likely
I'm
a
talking about
non-disclosure
even
agreement.
before there was the settlement. Like,
You
so
put
when
the-
you're negotiating this, how are you able to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that, in fact, they caused the harm?
Are you saying that some stranger came and dumped Drano in her margarita after the bartender gave it to her?
Your Honor, what I want is the proof. I want the proof that is admissible under the rules of evidence to actually prove that this happened. We could assume what happened,
Let's
but
let
how do
our
we
professor
prove what happened?
talk to you about circumstantial evidence and how if you go outside and it's wet, you can assume that it was raining.
And
She
how many
gets the
hands did
drink,
that
she
person? How
dies.
many hands touched did that glass touch? From the moment it came out of the box to it goes to the washer, to it goes to the person mixing the drink, then it goes to the person who's actually serving the drink. So who did it? Where was it done?
That's what
my
a good
only
defense
point.
lawyer would do. But the law says that the testimony of one witness alone, if believed, is enough. So, I mean, if that's enough for a
But
reasonable
what's
doubt
that witness
standard,
going to say
definitely.
though? But
She's
what
going
is
to
the witness
say,
going to say?
so this lady is going to say that immediately as she drank this, her throat seized up and she felt pain. And it was immediate. She didn't have it before, but she had it when she drank it. So it's reasonable to
But how do
conclude
we
that it was
know
there.
who put whatever
Oh, we
poison
don't
in
know
the
who
drink?
put it, but if you could have videos, I would immediately go look for the videos to see if there were
Yep.
videos. And you don't really have to know if it was the bartender or if it was the wait staff or if it was the kitchen staff. You don't need to know that. It's the establishment. As long as a patron or some intervening cause didn't happen to take it out of the staff's hands and then put it in someone else's hands, there's no causation break. The causation is straight from that vendor, that restaurant, straight to her lips.
And you think, Ashley, that that's enough to shut the restaurant down?
I think it could. Shoot, if there are
Hell yeah.
cockroaches that shut down restaurants. I see restaurants
mean
shut
for-
down all
I
the
don't
time
mean
for
for-
failing a
I
health
don't mean for-
inspection.
I don't mean for a couple of days. If there's cockroaches, if the refrigerator is not at the right temperature, it's closed down until it's fixed.
Right.
But do you think under these circumstances, the restaurant should be closed forever?
I think it could be closed forever.
Arthur.
I think
I
the
said
local
sh-
community should get it closed. They should stop
I've-
going to it.
Well, it's got to be a ghost town. I'm sure somewhere in the health code in that neighborhood in Oklahoma, it is going to say never, ever, ever, never store your caustic chemicals anywhere near where you are serving food or beverage. I'm sure it's in there, and they violated that. So board up the place, as far as I'm concerned. They'll just
All
open
right,
up
and I
with
will
some other
tell
Mexican
the single mom who's back there washing dishes and preparing the food that Jana took your job away. So now
Yeah,
your kids got to go.
That's
hungry.
right. That's right.
They can
Jana,
reopen.
Okay.
the Margarita aficionado.
Okay. All right.
All right,
Listen,
I
I feel
don't-
bad for the kids who are going hungry because of Jana Spilboard's decision. It's okay. I'm a different kind of guy. Okay.
I don't have a clock, but we're gonna switch gears yet again because this story is a little bit lighter, a little bit. Guys, we all know judges. We all rub elbows with judges. Not as many judges as Arthur does, right? Me and you, Ashley, but we know a few.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How would you feel if, say, one of your favorite judges was caught on camera puking and peeing on the sidewalk for all the world to see, eventually getting arrested, and then having her husband getting arrested for coming to her side? Because this happened in Arizona, where a judge pro tem, her name is Christine, spelled kind of interestingly, Schaff Olson, age 42, was scrambling to get out of the bushes where she was relieving herself, vomiting, urinating, and the cops caught it all on camera. She had to resign. She chose to step down. So before we get into it, let's just look with our own eyes at what happened here. Let's roll SOT 7.
What are you doing? Why? What are we doing?
I'm waiting for an Uber.
This is disgusting.
I'm waiting for an Uber.
Okay, this is unacceptable. Where's your ID?
It's my husband's wallet. Walk that way.
Are you her husband?
Yep.
Okay. Can you hang out over by the cab for me?
Nope. Come on.
Yeah, you can, because I'm conducting an investigation.
For what?
Because I just saw her puking and urinating, exposing herself to several
Nope,
people.
That wasn't her.
Okay, you can go by the cab or you can continue to interfere with the investigation.
Come on, baby.
Okay,
No.
last chance, go over to the cab.
No.
Okay, well, then you're detained.
Stop.
Can't do this.
I'm gonna throw you on the ground if you resist. I gave you several chances, and you don't want to listen.
We have a cab. Hey, baby. I'm the one that vomited.
Oh, okay, regardless, I saw her with her entire underexposed peeing in that bush, as well as several other people. Okay.
Not nearly as entertaining as the I'm an AG video of several weeks back, but Ashley, I mean, come on, this one's rough.
I'm going to take probably an obstinate position from everyone else. And you said this is a judge I like. If this is a judge I like, I don't care that they're peeing in the bushes, honestly. I care that they're ruling on my motions timely. I care that they're respecting me. I care they're respecting my client. I care they're following the law. You know, if they had a drunk, stupid night, I'm pretty sure we all have. They should have had better judgment. Issue a really, really kick-ass apology, take some substance classes, do something like that, and get your butt back on the bench because we got enough shitty judges out there that we don't need to lose a good judge just because they're peeing in the bushes.
I don't necessarily disagree with Ashley. It's all about the video, though, Ashley. It's all about the video.
That's
if
the
this was just
problem.
if this was just a written report that just said we found this person and she
Always
was
the
doing X, Y,
video.
and Z, yeah, and she was doing X, Y, and Z, and she turned out to be a judge, probably she would be doing what you said, getting some sort of treatment or whatever. But look, John, we call judges Your Honor, right? I mean,
Yeah, we do.
as much as I respect you, I don't call you Your Honor. I call you Beautiful Jonna Spilborn. And when you get that title, it has a lot of pros and a couple of cons. And the
That's the
cons
thing.
are you are held to a different standard. I wouldn't lose my job if the exact same thing happened to me. Not that it would, because I know how to hold.
That's why
my
I'm not a
alcohol.
judge.
Was that why?
That's why. I want to be able to
That's
get
the-
drunk in the
oh,
is that
bushes.
why? So I mean, but the judge did the right thing. She took herself and her family out of the limelight, and she's moving on, and I'm sure she'll wind up on her 2 feet.
Well, and she probably does, and she alluded to the fact that she's having some medical issues, so maybe she does need a little stint in rehab, right? Being a judge is a tough job, being a lawyer is a tough job, so I applaud her for that. But guys, you guys know, we are lawyers 24/7, so we got to try not to embarrass ourselves, right? When we're out in public, not that it hasn't happened, I've been that girl at a wedding a time or two, hate to admit it,
Easy,
but
you have the right to remain silent. Anything you
Right.
say kind of will be held
Which-
against you, okay,
which-
Spilborn?
I will exercise right now. All right, because I think we're going to take another break. And when we come back, we're going to really the favorite part of the show are your questions and our closing arguments. They're both coming up after this break.
Ever notice those creepy ads that pop up on your phone and seem to know exactly where you've been, what you've bought, even what you've been talking about? You've probably asked yourself, is my phone spying on me? Well, the truth is your smartphone is constantly collecting and leaking data without your knowledge or consent. Every day, it builds a detailed profile of your life, your location, your habits, your interests, even the people with whom you communicate. That info is tracked, analyzed, and sold to the highest bidder. It's not just annoying, it's invasive, and it's happening all the time. But the Up Phone by Unplugged is really different. This thing's very cool. It's designed to protect your privacy from the ground up. No hidden trackers, no data mining, just a secure, streamlined smartphone experience that puts you back in control. It's the phone for people who are sick and tired of being watched against their will. Ready to take back your digital privacy? Visit unplugged.com/MK and get $25 off a phone case with a purchase of a phone. Learn more and order your Up Phone today. That's unplugged.com/MK because your life should be yours, not theirs.
So we're going to get to our closing arguments and your mail. But first, Megyn Kelly is going on tour and we're all going with her. Now, listen, this is really exciting, you guys. If you haven't gotten tickets, she's literally going coast to coast. She's got shows coming up that Arthur and I will be at in White Plains, New York. She's going to Jacksonville, Florida, Miami, Florida, Duluth, Georgia, Bakersfield, California, Anaheim, California, and Glendale, Arizona. Listen, these tickets go fast. If you haven't already gotten them, please do. You can do that by going to megankelly.com and get your tickets. It's going to be a very exciting few weeks. So get your tickets, megankelly.com.
I'm excited, John. Are you excited?
I am very excited.
Are we gonna dance on the stage? Are we gonna do like a tango or something before
No,
Megan and
listen-
Tucker Carlson come on? Or?
I'm going to tell you why we
Sure.
can't do that. I'm going to tell you why. Because
Okay.
I have special designer shoes for this show.
Of course.
They're a little bit higher than I'm normally used to, and I don't want to embarrass myself. So we're not
Why?
going to
Why do you have to go so high? Would you want to like be taller than I am? I'm basically close to 6 feet. I mean,
This
what's the
is-
matter? We don't
This
look
is
good enough.
special. I don't get to wear these shoes to court because they're not court
So
shoes.
we're not going to dance on stage in front of all these people because of your shoe choice.
Listen,
That's
you
out
could
of
just
order,
hold
man.
me up and make sure I don't like walk. Did I ever tell you guys one time I was wearing my favorite pair of like Gucci clogs in a Mexican restaurant on my way to have a poisonous margarita,
Gucci
and
clogs.
the tile floor, because it was a Mexican restaurant, had a tile floor, and I'm sashaying my way to the bathroom, and whoop,
Oh.
down goes Frazier.
Yeah.
So embarrassing. I don't want that to happen on stage. Megan will kill me. I don't want it. So no.
I
I'm
appreciate the
not-
down goes Frazier comment. That's very, very good. You're showing your age there, kid, but I
Oh,
really
stop.
appreciate that.
No, stop. All right. But speaking of age, that's not even a segue. We do have a question from one of our beloved listeners slash viewers in our legal mailbag. All right. This is from Claudine. I love this question. She said, have you ever wondered if a case you were prosecuting or defending may be a quote setup or false confession? If so, what did you do? Do you think setups happen? Thanks for the great show. I love the back and forth between all of you, especially the spicy jabs. So much fun. Now, listen, you guys, what do you think she means by a setup? Like, I'm not quite sure what she means by that.
Well,
When
she
do you want
said
to take
a
it?
false confession, right?
That
And
happens.
a setup. I've had a case. I've had a case with both.
So
what-
my very first case, John, my very first case as a criminal defense attorney after I left the
Mm.
Brooklyn DA's office after 4 years and change, it was a young man who was accused of shooting 7 people. Said, thank God nobody died, but 7 people in the middle of the day in a very crowded area of Brooklyn.
Oh.
And when they arrested someone and they got to the precinct, they go, Artie, because I knew them from my capacity as prosecutors, and now I'm wearing the other hat. But they're like, Artie, we got him dead to rights, and he was identified, and he signed a confession. So I go in, they lock me in the cage with him. Well, that was an interesting experience. And he's crying, and he's out of his mind, saying, "I didn't do this. I didn't do this." I said, "Bro, you got a signed confession here." And basically, like out of the movies, he goes, "The detective told me either my signature or my blood was going to be on the confession page." To his credit,
Wow.
another detective who I knew came over to me and said, "Arthur, something's not right here, because the facts that this kid confessed to, they don't jive to the facts of the crime." And sure enough, through some great investigation, we found a videotape of my client in the county of Queens when he was supposed to be executing or trying to execute people in the county of Kings, and the case was
Wow.
dismissed. That was my very first serial case
Wow.
as a defense attorney. So yes, it happens. God willing, it doesn't happen often
Wow.
in this beautiful country, but yes, Claudine, it definitely happened.
Yeah. Claudine, if you're interested in a wild case like that, you should Google Ryan and Bo Dukes. So Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes, not related, 2 different names. I represented Ryan Duke, and it was a setup and it was a false confession. And so luckily that trial was broadcast. And so you can actually go and watch, but I would say watch the cross-examination of the lead detective in that case, Jason Shadell, where I broke down his interview with my client, the false confession, and how everything didn't fix and didn't meet what the evidence was. And the setup was the other guy, Bo Dukes. So I would encourage you to go check that out. I think you will go down a lot of rabbit holes and you will see how a setup can really happen.
We love rabbit holes.
Love rabbit holes.
Speaking of rabbit holes, it's time for our closing arguments, even though the time always goes so fast with you guys and we hate to leave. But we'll do girl, boy, girl, and we'll start with the gorgeous professor, Ashley Merchant. Take it away.
Thanks so much. All right. So tonight I'm going to profess about the grand jury process. So we've been talking about the different stages of a legal case, and I wanted to talk about grand jury. And the reason I wanted to talk about that is it's really the next phase in a criminal case, but also because one of our stories we talked about earlier, where that lady in Las Vegas had her gun and shot it, it just went in front of a grand jury and they indicted it. So I want to talk about how if you serve on a grand jury, it is one-sided. And a lot of folks don't ever serve on a grand jury, so they don't really know what happens and how the sausage is made. But what it is, I'm going to walk you through the exact process. It is a group of people that are sworn in for a period of time. So they don't serve on just one case like a trial jury. They are a jury that hears lots of different cases. They may hear multiple cases in one day, and they vote whether or not to indict. A lot of times when people come and they serve on jury service later on, they think that it's some magical process and it's this, testing of the evidence and there must be sufficient case. No, what it is there's probable cause, and that random people who don't know anything about the law and did not hear what we call an adversarial process decided that there was enough evidence to go forward. It's sort of the default. They say you can indict a ham sandwich, and that is completely true. You can indict a ham sandwich. Why? Because it's only the prosecutor in there. They don't get to hear anything from the defense. So whatever arguments, whatever holes we're poking, whatever alternate sides that we're talking about, never heard. The grand jury only hears what the state wants them to hear. And typically, they don't even hear from anybody involved in the case. They hear from an officer who's saying what other people told them. And it's selective. It's only what that officer wants to tell them. Now, there is a process that we have, and I wish we had it more, where if an officer, police officer, at least in the state of Georgia, if they are under indictment, they're allowed to testify. So we give them the right to have what we would consider a more adversarial proceeding, where they actually can tell their side of the story. But otherwise, citizens' sides of the story and those accused of crimes never come out. And it's very one-sided. So next time you hear someone's indicted, doesn't mean a whole lot.
Agreed.
Wow.
And
I
bravo.
second the motion. I second the motion.
That was a very good nutshell of the grand jury
Just
process.
to follow that up, sometimes in I've never done it, but in theatrical ways, defense attorneys will start off their opening statements by taking the indictment and ripping it up.
That's
based
awesome.
on what Ashley just said.
Yeah,
saying,
it's
"Listen,
junk."
This really means nothing. Well, speaking of the courtroom, I'll just take 1 minute to talk about the courtroom and who presides over the courtroom. We just did a segment about a judge who arguably acted inappropriately in a very public forum. And when you become a judge, you have people's lives in your hands, no matter what kind of judge you are. If you're a matrimonial judge, you're deciding when a father gets to see their child or how much money one parent has to pay to the other. If you're in the housing court, can someone live there or they can't live there? And obviously in a criminal court, the type of evidence that a jury hears and the kind of sentence that a defendant gets. It is a very prestigious position. And it is one where, you're called Your Honor. And, John had made a remark earlier about, I know a lot of judges. I do because I'm older now. And so a lot of my friends, colleagues, law school classmates are judges. Now, these are people who I've gone to football games with and parties with, and I have to walk into a courtroom and say, hello, Your Honor. And that's cool. I have no problem doing that. But I will also tell you, they live their lives in a way to avoid any such controversy. There are events that I go to that they can't go to with me because they're political events. Or there are events that I go to that maybe start a little later in the evening and go on until a little later in the evening. And they're just concerned, especially now that everyone has a camera, that they're going to be photographed, doing something wrong. I went to a dinner with the mayor of the city of New York, and he insisted not only just drinking water, he wanted it in a Poland Spring bottle so that people could see he was drinking water and not drinking alcohol. So when you get these prestigious positions, whether it's an elected official, yesterday was election day, or you're sitting on the bench, or you're a prosecutor, you get to carry that shield. You get certain courtesies. If you get pulled over, oh, I'm on the job. Okay, you get to drive. Keep going. You don't get a summons. But the flip side of the coin is you're held to a higher standard, as you should be, because you are a very special person. You've been designated as a special person in our society. So with that being said, I will not be running for office. I will not be asking for a judgeship because I don't know if I can live up to those standards, although I try to. But the word surrounding all of this, whether it's about the judiciary, whether it's about election day, is respect. Respect for the law, respect for each other, and basically realize that we're all in this together, and we should all do the best that we could do to be the best citizens that we could be.
Well, for somebody who doesn't want to be a judge, that was a very nice stump speech. I appreciate it. You know what, Arthur, and I don't believe you. I think someday, like, we're going to be in our late 60s, and people are going to be calling you Your Honor.
No, my ADD would never allow me to sit that long in one place at one time.
You do have a mild case of ADD. But okay, so now with those two brilliant closing arguments, we're going to take a turn into something a little bit silly, and that's mine. So since we just celebrated the turning back of the clocks, I have to confess that the only thing I hate more than close talkers, loud chewers, and lousy neighbors is the end of daylight saving time. Why? Because the only things I like to do in the dark, you guys, are sleep and eat. That's a real problem when you're a lawyer who sometimes works in small courts that hold dockets after 5 p.m. I always thought night court was a stupid idea, and one I wasn't used to when I moved back to my hometown after practicing law for a decade in San Diego, which was back then the 6th largest jurisdiction in the country. Talk about culture shock. The only thing we defense lawyers were doing after 5 o'clock were cocktails. Imagine my surprise when I found myself back in New York practicing country bumpkin law in courthouses that often met in buildings that doubled as the neighbor's shed. Or worse, a rusty trailer like the kind you find in a horror flick with chainsaws and deer heads hanging on the wall. I did a little research to find out why. Why am I sitting in a glorified outhouse waiting to handle someone's traffic ticket for following a cow too closely? The reason, as best I could tell, is that here in my little New York City bedroom community, you don't even need to be a lawyer to be a judge. Oh, no. Here, you get the votes, you get the robe. Legal knowledge? Nah, who gives a shit? Not necessary. As a result, the local farmer, bird watcher, or town whore, for that matter, could become a judge. Back in the day, once dusk descended on your field of corn, or dreams, you jump off your tractor, kick the shit off your boots, and wipe the last remnants of mutton stew from your wiry beard with a hand-sewn hanky before opening your garage to the town's ne'er-do-wells. Which brings me back to my original point. When you're a modern-day lawyer who runs her own firm with hundreds of clients, working 9 to 5 is just a catchy tune. My day starts before the moon puts herself to bed and ends right about the time she wakes back up. But the longer nights of standard time are not just my problem. They're yours too, on account of the crime rate for so-called street crimes actually goes up this time of year, specifically due to the increased darkness. Oddly, while street crimes increase, violent crimes like rape and murder go down. How can that be? Because when you get up in the dark, work in the dark, and come home in the dark, you're too fucking tired to kill anyone. That's how. I suppose every dark cloud has a silver lining, but I still hate it. And that's my closing. What,
Almost
Arthur,
got
what?
through the whole show without your potty mouth making an appearance.
No, we
okay?
can't. That's right. We cannot. Just like we can't go through the whole show without looking at your beautiful bald head or Ashley Merchant's freshly foiled locks. All right? Like we can't. That's right.
All right.
That's my job. All right.
Well,
With
thank
that
you for
said,
running the show today, John. Thank you. You did a
well,
marvelous
no,
job.
and thank you guys. You guys are the best. And thank everybody for listening and watching. And hopefully you can come out tonight and see me and Arthur on stage. Hopefully I will stay upright. And please, so thank you, my fellow contributors, Arthur Idella, Ashley Merchant, and thank all of you for joining us today at MK True Crime. Don't forget to send us your story suggestions, questions, and comments at mktruecrime@devilmaycaremedia.com. Have a great week.